Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Today we're going to learn how to create a new tracking plan and generate a full complete tracking plan with variables, event name, the data layer code with Google Tag Manager, even like some sheets of introduction. We're going to create all of this in less than 5 minutes with using Tag Insights. So I'm super excited to show you this. We're just going to dive in right now. So here I am inside the project that we created in another video, which is called New York Times main website. All right. So when we arrive here, we actually have a bunch of different features. And today we're going to look at the generator of tracking plan. So where it is exactly here, you have two sides like my tracking plan and you go to my tracking plan list. All right. You can also click here if you want to discover tracking plan or tracking plan list on the side. Once you arrive here, basically it's super easy. You just select generate a new tracking plan. When you're going to arrive here, the software is going to ask you a bunch of questions. The first step is actually about the project on itself. These steps is actually super important because everything you put here is going to be inside the Google Sheet documentation that is going to be generated, all right? So you want to make sure that it relates and it is what you actually expect for the documentation to be. Here we have put project name, New York Times main website, so it's okay. We also have a project main color and the logo. So these elements are super important. I was explaining it in another video that these elements are actually going to be used for the branding of your documentation that we're going to generate. So if you want your documentation to be red, to be yellow, to be green, whatever, you actually need and want to put the colors that you want here, either the primary color or the primary text color that you actually expect to be inside the documentation. Okay, so this is super important. And on the right, we have the New York Times logo. So this is the logo that also going to be used inside the documentation. We also have the tag management system. So the tag management system basically is whether you want to use Google Tag Manager code or if you want to use Commander Act code. Okay, it's two different tag management system. And for example, today we're going to use the Google Tag Manager one. Okay, so now we just arrived on the second step. This second step is about selecting a template. So what do we mean by selecting a template? Here at the moment of this video, we are going to create, we only have actually just one element is create from scratch. On the future, and actually if you ask us some new templates, we're going to be able to offer you different kind of templates for different tools. It can be a template with Google Analytics 4, or it can be a template with Mixpanel, Amplitude, Segment, whatever software you think might be useful, we're going to be able to add them for you here on this step, so you can actually start with something already made. Okay, so we're going to create and select create from scratch, and then we press next. And here we arrive on the event selection. So this step is super important. It's basically where you're going to create and do your market and your shopping about all the elements and the events that you want to add to your documentation and to your project. So we have three elements that we need to dive in and to understand. The first one is events related to your project. You're going to see here on the left that you have a project library where you actually can there create new events for your project. So I'm going to do another video dedicated to this element, but just for you to know, the events related to project are related to all the events that you have created inside this project library and inside your project. So you're gonna see all of them being displayed there, whether it is like in French or English or your own language. Okay, so for events associated with your organization is basically the same, but not about the project itself, but mostly about the organization. So here we are here on the organization level, like your account is going to be your organization, and you're going to have the possibility to create different bunch of projects. But you actually want to, like here, maybe you want to reuse some of the events that you have created in one previous projects, you actually want to reuse them for other projects. So it's quite useful because here you have the account library where we're going to have all the list of the events that you have created on different projects that you can reuse on some other projects. So this is the organization level. It's a way for you to, if you've created and made a lot of work in one project, you can reuse all of these elements in another project by elevating all the events that you have created in one project. So this is the organization level element. So we're going back to the tracking plan list. Here we're going to do the steps again. Next. This, we just explained the events related to your project. Now we explain the events associated with your organization, and now we have the model events from Tag Insights. So basically, at Tag Insight, we have already created a bunch of events for you to be able to start with some elements, and that it's faster and quicker for you to kick off a new tracking plan. So what are these? So basically here you have some element where you can select Google Tag Manager event, or if you want to select like segment event, or if you want to select piano analytics events. So you have like a different categories, and we can actually add new events if you want. And for each one of them, you're going to find a different structure, like a dedicated structure of data layer that you can actually reuse for your documentation and for your project. So for example, here I have selected this little thing here that goes a little bit like yellow orangey that you can select there, and the software is going to show you what is the data layer and the architecture, the structure, how it's going to be, like what's going to be the variables name, what's going to be, like the structure of the different variables. It's very important, and I think it's quite useful if you want to know, okay, what are you actually selecting, if it matches your needs and if it goes the right way for you. All right. Here I'm going to use like the Google Analytics 4, and we're going to use, for example, the add to cart. So we want to add the add to cart, or maybe also the generate lead. So I'm going to select them, you see. And once you've selected some of the elements, it goes on the right. So that's why I was like calling it a little bit your shopping list, because it's like if you were adding to cart some of the events that you actually want to add to your projects. So we're just going to create, we're just going to select all of these. Here we have a purchase with all the variables like required. Here we have a remove from cart, and so on and so on. And you could actually mix it with some of the others element, project or organization. And once you've done that, that's it. You're finished. You can just like click on next, and the software is going to create a new like tracking plan inside your project. And with this tracking plan, you're going to be able to generate a Google Sheet documentation. You're going to be able to audit and put some monitoring on these like elements with whatever website, and it's gonna be very useful for you. So here we are. We just selected on edit, and now we have the list of all the events that we have selected. Okay, once you arrive there, basically it's going to allow you to make some edits if you want. So like for example, here you have edit events, you have check code. So you have a way like to see, okay, what is the code, where it is actually integrated, what are the instructions, and you also have like a little thing here where you can edit all of the event elements inside. So here you have a code, you have a label, the description of the event. Here we can add some page parameters. We're going to talk about it in another video. Like here, like we have some page type, like where actually the code, the add to cart here, this example needs to trigger, on what kind of typology of pages, event type, if it's a form submit, a click, custom event, an impression, a model, a page view, a scroll, or whatever. And here you have like a bunch of instruction, and you can also edit all the structure of variables, because all this structure is actually coming from the example, like the model, but you can change it. You can add new variable, you can edit current like variables, you can do whatever you want with the code. But if we look at it here, we're going to have like save and export button, and if you click on it, you will see that The software, after you've made all the modifications and the updates that you actually need on this little list of events, maybe you want to change the columns, maybe you want to change some elements. Once you're ready, you can just click on Save and Export, and the software is going to collect and gather all the data that you have selected. So the logo, the colors, the event names, the list, and everything that you have selected, and it's going to automatically generate a quick documentation. Like, look at it. We have a full, perfect documentation tracking plan being made with all the table that we had like here. It's actually the same table that you create here. You can create new columns and everything. It's going to be exactly the same, and you have this like little elements where it shows you all that you need. Here we have a code, here we have the instructions like about the data layer and where it needs to be implemented, and here we even have like a full like table of variables being generated for us. But it's actually super useful for the IT team, for the product team, for everyone. You can like use it inside the software, or you can actually just generate a new Excel and work with it, and you make sure the software is going to make sure that your Excel file is always up to date, and you never have like an Excel file or whatever document, Notion and stuff that is never up to date, and we don't know what's up inside the website. Is it correct? If it's not correct or not. So voila, this is how you can create and generate a tracking plan super fast, super easy with Tag Insight. And in another video, once we have done that, I'm going to show you that now we can actually put and set up a monitoring of the data of this tracking plan. See you.